Welcome to another issue of the Cool Tools Show and Tell. I have a great guest with me this week, longtime friend, James Home. James, could you introduce yourself a little bit in a few sentences?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm James Home. I help folks tell their stories with technology and design. That's included everything from Google search to the new website for the Long Now Foundation, which is a nonprofit that helps people think about the future. About 4 years ago, my wife and I got on a 40-foot sailboat and sailed it south to Mexico. And we're talking to you right now in Barra de Navidad.
Inside your boat.
Pacific. Exactly right.
Inside your boat. And James also has been working on a redesign for my website and has helped me in the past with design issues. And we've done some walks together too, at least one. And that's been really a lot of fun.
Yes,
getting to know you in that way. So as a boat captain and someone who is dealing with things all the time, I'm really interested in what kind of cool tools you might have to share with us. So,
yeah.
So James,
the sea life is a very tool-heavy life.
Yes, it is. Things are always breaking.
Yes, indeed.
So you get really good at fixing stuff, I would imagine.
It's after 4 years, my discipline around maintenance is completely different. And as we start to think about land life again, figuring out how we're going to bring those sets of skills back to do fun things, I'm looking forward to.
Well, I mean, since we're here, what's one general lesson that you learned that you didn't know coming in about maintenance?
A general lesson,
or fixing things, maintenance or fixing.
Yeah. So, I mean, just the biggest, I think the biggest thing is you just want to be on it from the beginning. You know, you want to have a clear sense of every component in the boat, or every component in your house, or every component in your car, and just kind of know what state it's in. So, you know, I kind of have a rolling understanding of where things are, knowing that. There's a really good adage that sailors say, which is at any time, 80% of the things on your boat work. So that means, you know, 20% of your systems are probably not working properly. And that's good. That's what you're kind of aiming for. So,
and do you think that's true for a house as well, or a?
I think it is, but it's less dramatic in a house, right? Your house doesn't sink, so you're not. If that 20% doesn't include, the boat being able to sink, it's good, right?
I get that because yesterday we had the appliance repair guy fixing our refrigerator.
Yes.
And he was shocked that it was 11 years old. He says, "This is ancient. This is like," He says, "I don't work on 11-year-old refrigerators anymore. To us, this is like brand new. But to him, this is like," says they don't last for 11 years anymore.
Boy, that's another one. That's the biggest thing that I would say I've learned is make sure that the things that you're buying are built for the long term. You know, don't buy something that has planned obsolescence built into it.
Right. But he said the problem is it doesn't matter what refrigerator you buy. It doesn't matter whether you buy a Viking or a Wolf or any of these ones. None of them, as far as he can tell, last 11 years. So, your first tool.
Yeah, first tool. So this is, we started talking about boats. So this is about as sailorly a tool as I can suggest, but it really has much broader application than that. And I think it's actually, among the most primitive of cool tools. And that's just a piece of rope. So this is a piece of 6 foot, 3/8 inch nylon rope. And what I recommend to everyone is that they go and they find a piece. You can get them at West Marine, you can get them at a hardware store, but get a good quality one that you like the feel of and that you like having in your hands. Because what I recommend people do is that they carry this around with them. You will be absolutely astonished once you learn a couple of knots, how unbelievably useful it is to be able to pull out 6 feet of rope. Like, it sounds really silly. You're laughing. But it will change your life to become this kind of low key rigger and be able to oh, I want to basically have a clothesline right here. I know that there's a knot that I can put on this side and a knot that I can put on that side, and boom, you're good. That sounds really intimidating because we learn knots in the stupidest way. We learn knots by trying to tie a knot. The first time you try to tie a knot, almost everybody, you're leaning over to the hardest part of your body to reach and trying to tie what's actually a fairly complicated knot. Like a shoelace knot is actually fairly challenging. That's a terrible way to learn something, by taking one of the harder ones and putting it as far away from you as possible. And so I think there's a whole bit of relearning that people can do around the relationship with line. It's just spectacularly, it's hard to overstate how much it's changed the way that I think about moving stuff around, securing stuff. I've always been somebody who's done fairly adventurous things. I went to Burning Man 10 times. We constantly had problems where if I had just a little bit of understanding about what to do with this, they wouldn't have been problems. I would have been sitting there with a drink in my hand having a great time. And instead I'm holding down the edge of the tent because none of my lines held.
Right.
So the trick is, and the reason that everybody thinks knots are hard is because they never spend any time with them. So the trick is carrying one around with you. Try 2 or 3 knots. Get really good at those. Don't think, oh, I'm going to learn 20 knots. Learn 3 knots. The bowline is one of the best knots to learn. It's just a simple loop, in the end of a rope. It's like that. It's that simple, and that I know will not come loose ever. So how do you learn them? Knots 3D is an iOS app that is absolutely spectacular. So what this lets you do is actually see an animation of the line. So you can actually, for each knot, kind of just see an animation. You can turn that animation around. You can flip it this way. So all the different things that make learning knots hard is, your knot almost never looks like the picture. Why doesn't it look like the picture? This lets you move the picture around to see it. You can also learn from books. So Jana Atkins does these absolutely amazing illustrated books. Here's the bowline in that, right? And it's a completely different way of thinking about it. Get that in there.
Yeah, the bowline actually has different variations as well.
Absolutely.
Or every knot does.
Most knots do. But the biggest thing I would say is don't worry about the complications. Like just pick 4 or 5 of the basic knots. Right. Really get good with them, and it will totally change the way that you think about stuff.
Right. So we didn't coordinate this, but right next to my desk, I have some rope, and I practice my knots.
Awesome. Yes.
Because the thing about it is like I try to do it in the dark without looking.
Yes. Yeah.
Because oftentimes you can't see it. The thing I found is learning it one way and then like turning around from the other direction. It's like it doesn't work the first time. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Just turning it a little bit.
The whole flip on this is so useful. Like this doesn't seem like a killer feature. It's amazing. You get in the middle of it and you're like, oh, okay, I see what I'm doing. I'm doing that.
Yeah. So keep practicing. And I think
I'm left-handed, which complicates it a ton.
Oh,
right?
yeah, exactly.
All the
right.
are right-handed, right? So,
yeah. So the knots 3D, that's great. YouTube is not bad as well for some of the more common knots.
No, YouTube's great.
So that's a great, fantastic suggestion.
The biggest thing is just start your odyssey with it. Like really, pick up some line, and don't feel intimidated by it. You'll learn 2 or 3, and that'll really get you on the go. And as soon as you solve a problem in real life with it, it will completely. A friend of mine was taking photos and was trying to use this umbrella to capture light. And it kept falling over, and it's just like I just took a little bit of line out, not even really thinking about it, and she was just like, "What just happened?" And it's little things like that. You feel like a superhero, and it's really simple to get the skill set to do it. Right,
and my own odyssey is that learning it once, I have to keep relearning it. Basically, you have to practice it at least once a year, maybe more. You have to it's like a language. You have to use it a lot in order to really get it burned in, so you don't think about it.
100%. And the fact that you had that right there in arm's reach on
Right.
your desk, we didn't talk about that at all.
No.
Is I think just completely indicative of the kind of relationship you can build with it. And it seems
Right.
like a small, silly thing, but it's one of the biggest things we've gotten from Sea Life.
Great.
If you get really into it and you need something fancy, the Mirchin offshore knife and
Wait,
Marlon Spike
show
combo.
that what's going on. There's a sheath, there's a knife.
Yeah, so this is a kit they sell. It's the Mirchin offshore kit. And
Offshore.
It's essentially it's a sheep's foot knife, so you don't stab yourself as you're running around on the boat.
I see.
But it's super heavy duty. So most knives, the blade is fairly thin. It's thin up here, but it's very thick up here. So you can actually, thick line, you can hammer the top of the knife so that you can cut
I
the
see.
loop. And then Marlon Spikes are another thing that I was just like, I'm never going to use a Marlon Spike. What I'm going to do is I have 4 of these now. It's a way of, messing around with the line. Once you've got a knot tied and you want to get in there and you don't want to, you've torn up your fingernails doing this almost certainly. This is what you do instead of the fingernail. And you wind up learning that there's just a bunch of different things that you can do with this. So this is a very nice, simple one that Mirchin sells with this kit. So I recommend that one. As the line has started to become, this is part of my life, I'm definitely going to have this around. That's how to cement it.
And it's not TSA approved.
Yeah, don't put this in your carry-on. You can pack it, and I don't pack this knife, but I do pack a smaller folding knife.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, that's great. So, Tim, what's the second tool?
Second tool. Let's see. 40-foot boat, basically the size of a shipping container. I've got very little space. And our lighting is fairly dim. So how do you solve that problem? I can't have a big shop light. It's too big. It takes up too much room. So when we need more lighting than we have, we actually reach to the bookshelf and we take this book out. Looks like a normal hardcover book, right? But in fact,
wow.
Right? So you can lay it flat like this if you need a magic item in the room, which is already pretty cool. But another feature that this thing has, and I'm going to move the camera around a little bit here. I followed my own advice and put a little line up here. This took 20 seconds to do, and I'm going to take this. So this is a leather strap. This comes with the Lumio. This is the Lumio.
That's what it's called. It's called a Lumio.
This is the Lumio Light Classic. Yeah. So they are a little startup that started with these books. They have a whole line of home products now, but they started with these books. They also come with this strap. So this is a little leather strap, and it's on a magnet. And so the magnet comes off, and this is going to go around our line up here. And then our Lumio is going to do this.
Wow.
And so now we've got a chandelier.
That is so cool.
And so that right there is sort of our standard household chandelier. This was actually given to me as a dinner gift by some dear friends. Shout out to David Shiplikoff if he's watching.
And it's working on rechargeable batteries?
It's actually a USB charger. So tucked right into the edge here is a little USB port. So it runs all night. Sometimes I forget it and I leave it up. In the morning, I come in, I plug it in. It's good to go by the end of the day. This is all paper. The unusual thing about it, in addition to the fact that it's a book that turns into a light, is that the light it casts, because of the paper they chose, is this really warm, beautiful yellow golden light. I've never had a light this bright that I actually enjoyed having up. I'm really sensitive to light quality, and this one really just punches all the tickets.
Yeah. It seems to be very soft in that sense.
Yeah.
Because of the multiple
very
points.
Bright.
It's like a soft box.
Yeah, exactly. Dahlia frequently sews under it. Is one of its most common uses.
Yeah, that's fabulous. That's called Lumio. And how much does it run?
They're 225. I think they make a smaller one as well, but let's double check that.
That's okay. It gives me just a range.
Yeah, this is the Lumio Light Classic, and it's a little pricey for a light, but given the transformation that it's capable of doing, it has been a really essential tool on Rejoice.
Well, that's fabulous. Okay, we're on a roll. So, what's your third tool?
Third tool is a little more hardcore than these other two. So we started out with a line which you can get for about maybe $3 if you get something really nice. Our next product is more like $6,000. Okay, so this is the Spectra Watermaker's Aquifer 200. So the one that I'm talking about here and listing is a suitcase version of the water maker that we have on Rejoice. So water makers are like mini desalination plants. They're mostly used by the offshore sailors and the military. But as sea levels rise and people become increasingly nomadic, it seems like small scale desalination might become a bigger thing. I'd love to hope that's not true, but my guess is it's going to be something that becomes more relevant as time goes on.
So just to be clear, it takes seawater and turns it into fresh water.
Takes seawater or brackish water or coastal water that would otherwise not be good to drink, and turns it into good drinking water. And so most of these water makers take a lot of power. They run on 120 volt AC, and they're very difficult to have on a boat, for example. And you certainly can't put them in a suitcase and take them to shore. What's amazing about Spectra is they came up with a really genius, cool tool style design, where, so this is what, actually, let's go ahead and let me bring my screen up here. So without a Clark pump, you can see there's the reverse osmosis membrane. So basically water pumps are basically just a membrane that you push bad water through and get good water out of. So you can see over on the left here, there's good water coming out into that glass of water from the membrane as it pushes the salt essentially through this membrane and out the other side.
Right.
So with conventional water.
For those who are listening, it's a kind of a long cylinder where there's like maybe a piston or something that's pushing it through, and there's a filter at the other end or along the whole diameter. I'm not sure.
Exactly. That whole thing is a filter. And so there's a hose on either end. And as bad water comes in, it goes through that big long filter and comes out both sides. And on one side, it's good water, and there's not much of that. And on the other side, it's brine, and there's plenty of that. And so in a conventional water maker, that brine gets thrown out. There's a 120 volt AC super high power boost pump that's running that is pushing that water through, and it just wastes the pressurized water on the other side. The thing that's ingenious about the Spectra is it actually captures that brine water and dumps it back into a totally otherwise passive pump. So this pump, the Clark pump, doesn't run on electricity at all. It just takes the brine that's coming through the membrane and runs it through again. And so essentially there's this piston that you see pushing on either side, and that it's like a 90% efficiency pump that keeps the water moving through. And so that allows you to really dramatically cut the needed power to make this thing run. And that's the thing that really makes it special for people who are on boats, or for nomads who are taking care of a small community that no longer has a good water source. I'm actually in the middle of servicing ours, so I can actually show you what this looks like.
So, it's smaller than I thought.
Yeah, so the pump itself is pretty small. The membrane would be about 2 or 3 times that size. And so there's a piston here that moves back and forth. It goes back and forth so it keeps all of the energy. It doesn't drop it on a backstroke. That lets it keep about 90% of that energy as it's going through there, which just allows it to be super efficient.
Wow. And so so just give us some general kind of a range. So if you were running it at full blast, how much water would it generate in an hour? Clean water.
Between 9 and 15 gallons an hour.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And
and very low efficiency. You can keep it running on a fairly small solar panel.
so you're powering it by solar.
Correct. Yeah. When we run it, we've got about 200 watts of solar right now, and that is enough to keep us in enough water to drink, in addition to run all of our computers and lights and all that good stuff.
So that's a pretty good ratio. If you can do 200 watts generating even 10 gallons an hour,
Phenomenally efficient.
Because if you get 5 or 6 really good hours of power in a day, that's a lot of water for a family.
Yeah, it can keep a small community, not in traditional Western standards of water use, certainly, but in quite comfortable water use.
So a lot of technologies, exhibit, power law decreases in price. Is there anything about this technologies that you could see getting cheaper and cheaper by the year?
It already has. So so Spectra's already gotten it to the point where they can put it in a much smaller container. Previously you basically needed a boat or a car to carry these around in, but they've really gotten it down to kind of suitcase sized, which is a pretty major shift. At the same time, the prices come down considerably. I think a lot of what's driving the price is just that there isn't that much demand. The number of people who need these is relatively low. They use all extremely high quality parts, and everything is kind of custom for these. So there are a lot of places where there can be efficiencies added, I think.
Are there Chinese knockoffs yet?
So they patented the Clark pump, and I think that has kept that from happening. There are several similar technologies that are now kind of emerging. I'm not sure if the patent has expired, or if they're just kind of shifting the way that they work. But the idea of recovering the energy with the discarded brine is people are finding other ways to do that.
Okay, because that would be great news for the world if you can make this like any other appliance, like a small refrigerator, $300 or $400. Maybe it doesn't last as long as the one for the boat would, but it might last for 5 years, and that's still a great bargain.
Absolutely, yeah. The Spectra is the one that I chose to show mostly because I had one with me, but also they really just did such a remarkable job on the engineering of this. It's such a just looking at it is interesting. Like the design of the Delrin blocks that they put together to make the pump itself. Just a lot of really good, interesting choices. And I think as time goes by, seeing that model kind of be adapted in other ways, I think is very exciting.
Right, because solar powered desalination is that's just huge.
Yeah,
huge,
absolutely,
huge.
absolutely.
Yeah, and anyway, so it's good enough to work on a boat, but it's expensive, is what Correct. It is right now.
But they last forever. This one is 20 years old, so it's the basic design of the Clark pump. I'm using parts that they sell today for the ones that they're selling today on this 20-year-old model because they've changed nothing. They've made a couple of small improvements to the complex components that surround it. I'm showing a very simplified version of the water maker. There are feed pumps and filters and all kinds of other pieces to it. And all of those have had a lot of continuous improvement, but the Clark pump itself hasn't changed much.
Are there used ones? You bought a used one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. People don't tend to let go of them. So it's relatively rare that they come up. This one was on the boat when I bought it. So it wasn't that I found.
Well, I guess you could maybe find a really cheap boat and just buy it for the
for the water maker.
Yeah.
I bet that has happened.
Well, that's really great. That's good news. I hope someone like Saul Griffith takes it on and decides we can make this for $300. Let's figure out how we can design it even cheaper and smaller.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's plenty of room for that. I think the people who are going to want the super industrial versions are still going to buy the super industrial versions, but there's a huge market, I think, for people who can't even begin to start to afford that need a lot of this technology and could do something simpler.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll be fabulous. So, thank you, Nim. That was really perfect. Do you have anything else you want to talk about tools before we talk about what you're up to?
Just a couple of small bits from existing cool tools. I know that you love the P-Touch printers, but I haven't seen this
P-Touch
one.
printers are for printing labels. For those who don't know.
Yeah. I haven't. Oh, right. They're kind of the best label makers. The labels that they print are super strong and last a really long time. I have them outside, in tropic sun, and they're beautiful. They look the same way they did 2 years ago when I put them out. And the printers for them tend to be these big complex things with bunches of numbers on them. They drain batteries really fast, like even if they're turned off. That was my biggest problem with them. This one does not, though. This is their P-Touch Cube, which is $50, and it works with, it has no interface on it at all. There's no buttons on this at all. Instead, you've got an iPhone app.
Oh, wow.
So the iPhone app will use any typefaces that you can put on it. So I have a typeface for the boat, and all of my labels are in that typeface. It'll print small logos and icons and things like that. And it works super, super well. I've been just elated with that. I've had several P-Touch printers. This is hands down the best one that I've had. And it's tiny, like it fits into it just disappears into a drawer.
And so it's a Bluetooth or?
Yeah, exactly right.
Bluetooth with your phone and rechargeable batteries, I guess. Are you saying you can load fonts? You can load fonts onto it.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, you can load fonts onto anything that you can put on here, you can put on there. And so the iOS now lets you do any fonts that you want. So I move fonts over there, and then I can put them on the. I
didn't realize that the iOS allows you to have fonts.
It does. It's a little fiddly, but it does.
You're a font guy, so you would probably figure it out.
Yes, yeah. Having the right typography and having all the typography speak the same language just makes me feel so good in a space. So, in most of these panels are things that I'm looking at in an emergency case. I just want to be as calm as possible. So, typography keeps me calm.
That's really interesting.
Yeah,
a unified typography keeps me calm.
Hugely, yeah, hugely.
Huh. Well, I can kind of see that. Huh. And do you have what's your boat's font?
We use Interstate Bold is our label font.
The actual Interstate from the signs?
Exactly right. Yeah, it was designed originally for the interstate highway system, and it's just gorgeous and super readable. Obviously, it's one that I've been using for a lot of things for a long time. There's a open source version called Overpass, which is also quite lovely.
That's great.
Right?
I thought there was one called Clear Sight or something. Or Clear was a
Clearview.
Clearview.
Yeah, also in the family. So Interstate was kind of the first one, and they're all sort of evolutions.
I see. Okay, but your Interstate was the original.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Okay, so you're old school.
It was a typeface taken from the original highway system. So the highway system was a separate design process, and then this was an adaptation by a really excellent typographer.
Okay,
and then Overpass and Clearview were kind of echoes of that. So
all right,
it's highway based typography. There's a whole that could be a cool tool in itself. I think that it's extraordinary, and I could talk for too long about it. Okay,
well, that's perfect. So we'll have links, in the show notes about those fonts. Is there a project you would like to share with us, and what are you excited by these days?
Yeah, a lot of what I'm excited by is coastal Mexico. So we are right now spending a lot of time bouncing from anchorage to anchorage as we float around on the Pacific coast of Mexico. But in the meantime, I've also I just relaunched longnow.org. So the Long Now Foundation is a website a nonprofit organization that's focused on helping people think passionately about long-term thinking, which can be a kind of a tough sell. Right. And they've really, as you know, given that you're part of the crew there. Have really come up with some sort of fascinating ways to help people think about this in new ways.
Right.
And so
show a little picture of,
of the
website that you just redesigned for us. I co-chair the Long Now Foundation, which is what I mean by us. But one of the projects we're doing is building this clock inside the mountain that would tick for 10,000 years. And so you've captured some of the energy and the optimism very well on your design here.
Thank you. So much of what Long Now is doing is a storytelling project. And so really putting the story first is what this design is all about. And so that's been super fun to do. And there aren't many organizations who are comfortable working with somebody who's working from a boat and bouncing around a bunch and might be away from connectivity for a month at a time. And so I really have appreciated working on this.
And you mentioned earlier that besides your boat, your nomadic boat existence, you're looking at a land boat.
Yeah. So my wife
something.
and I just picked up a Toyota Land Cruiser, which we're going to drive from North Carolina across the country to California and Oregon. And part of what we're doing is considering what a future land life might look like. So we're originally from San Francisco. That place is absolutely gorgeous and dear to our hearts, but also very focused on money in a way that we're less excited about being. And so we're looking for other great places to be. So kind of a reverse caravan from the 70s, right? We know that we don't want to settle in Tennessee. I've already lived there for a little while, but we're definitely looking for cool places in the United States to check out as we.
So if you have a suggestion for Jim and his wife, post it in the comments. He'll come inspect. Do you have any criteria that you're willing to share that you're using to kind of constrain your search for?
I mean, I think the audience for this video series is probably a pretty good one. People who are passionate about creating things, who are open-minded, and who love to learn. It needs to have a very strong nature component. We've realized that we really like being in the wild for a lot of the time that we're alive. And so that was a big epiphany for both of us city dwellers. We'll be at least 2 hours away from a big city, but not much more than that because we still like getting on airplanes and going and seeing the people we're dear to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
Yeah. So ready access to nature and cool folks.
And as far away from the ocean as possible?
No. I think we'll probably. I will always have one foot in the sea.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what the balance is going to look like. We're still not planning on letting go of Rejoice, but we'll see what time looks like in the fullness of time. Rejoice is the boat we live on. So yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing these tools and your life with us. It's really great to catch up myself with you, and they're great picks. The lights, the knot tying, the desalination, the desalting of water is, I think, humongous. It's just really so important, and it's really cool that there's a portable version of it. So
absolutely,
those are great finds. And
well, this has been such a pleasure. And I, as you know, going all the way back to Signal and the whole Earth catalog, like this relationship with understanding how tools can change your life has been dear to me since I was very young. So thank you for that.
Okay. Well, great, Jim. Thank you.
Absolutely.
See you all next week. We're glad that you enjoyed this issue of the Cool Tools Show and Tell. Just want to remind you that we have some other coolish material on our YouTube channel here. Please subscribe, comment, like. In addition, this Cool Tools Show and Tell is also available in an Audible podcast form. You can subscribe to it wherever you subscribe to other podcasts if you just wanted to listen. And if you're listening, know that there is a visual version of this on our YouTube channel where we're actually showing the tools, and there's a little bit more of a visual component there. In addition, the same folks that put us, the Cool Tools website out, we also put out a free newsletter every week. It's very, very short. It's 1 page or less. We recommend 6 very brief items that are very succinct, easy to read. You can deal with it in a couple minutes. And every week we bring to you the 6 cool things that we have uncovered and want to share. And it's called Recommendo with 1M, recommendo.com. You'll be able to find it there. It's free. Join 50,000 plus other subscribers every Sunday morning. You'll get it in your email box. And it's actually one of the most popular things that we produce. But we do produce other newsletters as well. One of them is called What's in Your Bag. We have one that goes out to tools and tips for your workshop. So you can get those at our website, and they are also free. And finally, I want to mention the fact that we do have a Patreon, and this podcast and this vidcast are supported by Patreon supporters. The minimum is $1 a month. And for that, you get an email to ask us anything. We'll respond and answer your question if we're able to. There are other higher levels. You can all see those at our Patreon page. And all those links are below right here. So thank you again for being a fan. And we'll keep producing stuff if you enjoy it. Thanks. We give thanks to this week's patrons, who include Dan Dow, Bruce Bear, Shiraz Sherwani, Ed O'Brien, Mary Estabrooks, Dan Spakowitz, Maureen Grolnick, Pillabine, Santiago Uribe, and Kevin Sill. Thank you all for your support.